All right, without further ado, Evans, please take it away.
Hello, everybody. How you guys doing? I am Evans Saint-Gerard, a real estate agent. Hopefully, your real estate agent when you're ready to purchase or sell a home. I'm going to introduce the rest of our team here. Andrew, could you take yourself off mute and introduce yourself?
Well, certainly. How you doing, everybody? Thank you, Evans. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Tiffany. Hi, I'm Andrew Jaloza from the Estate Planning and Elder Law Group. We are your estate planning and elder law attorneys. And we're here to talk a lot about estate planning, what it's good for, how it helps you, and we're here to turn it over to Dean. Dean, unmute.
And my name is Dean Graver. I too am a real estate agent locally in Queens and looking forward to being helpful and useful to everybody and informative to everybody tonight.
All right. While we have everybody here, I just want to give some house cleaning things. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll be responding to those, basically answering them as soon as they come. Actually, put the questions in the Q&A section, and we'll be sending you some information through the chat. So without further ado, Andrew, the floor is yours. You want to discuss basically the first topic?
I have a good question for Andrew to start, if that's okay.
Sure, Dean.
All right, so Andrew, we're going to start with the basics. What are the key differences between a will and a trust? And how do I determine which one is right for my situation?
Love that question. Thank you so much. So basically speaking, we're talking about estate planning. Estate planning is not only about dying. So documents like directives, advance directives, healthcare proxies, power of attorneys are also important. But as you talked, the will and the trust are two documents that are generally used to create a plan to leave your assets sometime in the future when you pass away to others who you want to get them. The major difference between a trust and a will are that a trust is also in effect while you're alive. You create a living trust, and you also transfer property to it, own your property through that, and creates a different vehicle to use your property and deal with your property while alive. A will is a document that you create that is meant to go into effect when you die and must go through probate, which is a court process. A trust does not. Property put in the trust does not have to go through that same process.
And with mentioning that, can you explain how trusts help to avoid probates and the benefits of that process?
Absolutely. So let's talk about why you may want to avoid probate first. Why you may want to is number one, almost always you need to hire an attorney to do it. It is a more expensive process to deal with. There is delays built into the process, inherent in the process, because you have to wait for the court's approval. Once someone dies, the executor named in the will must file papers with the court and wait for the court to give them a letter of authorization to move forward. It doesn't happen quickly. Sometimes it happens, takes months even to get those letters. Depending upon what happens, you may be fighting in court with your other siblings, beneficiaries, heirs, etc. A trust changes how you're owning the property. So any property you put into that trust or make the trust the owner of does not go through the process of probate.
Andrew, I always hear these things, irrevocable trusts, revocable trusts. I've been around real estate for a long time, and I'll tell you, maybe you just even explain to me, I'm unclear on what those all are.
Another great question. So two types of trusts generally, revocable versus irrevocable. When you want to talk about a revocable trust, what I often talk about is a little red wagon. How many people know what a little red wagon is? Radio flyer, red, wheels, handle, pull it along. It's just a little empty box that you fill up with stuff, right? Similarly, a revocable trust is like a little red wagon in that it's a flexible thing that you create. It is, you put your things in, you put your houses, bank accounts, stock brokerage accounts, and transfer the ownership into that trust. And now what happens if something happens to you, you get ill or you pass away, the things that you put into your trust are now in control of you or in control of people that you appoint without having to go through court. So a revocable trust is like an open box. You have everything, you have access to everything. You can spend everything that's in there. You're usually the grantor, the person who puts the property in, trustee, and the beneficiary. An irrevocable trust is something we use to create asset protection. It's irrevocable, and what it does is allows you to change how you own your property in a significant enough way that prevents future claims and creditors from getting access to that in the event that you either owe somebody money or someone sues you in the future. You can protect your assets. So revocable trust, no asset protection, avoids probate. Irrevocable trust avoids probate and gives you asset protection.
All right, so what's usually best for somebody, let's say a younger family, and they want to kind of jump into this, excuse me.
Well, I'd say depending upon where you are. So younger families, I would generally counsel it's good to get a revocable trust plan, right? You create this revocable trust plan, you can change it in any way that you want throughout the rest of your life as long as you have it. You can revoke it if you decide that it's not working for you. You can change later on and make an irrevocable trust as you get older when you're concerned about needing asset protection. Why do you need asset protection? Two things usually. One, you have a risky job or something that presents risk to your assets. Or two, you are afraid about and concerned about long-term care costs, and you want to be able to get help. And having that asset protection trust enables you to access benefits you otherwise wouldn't be able to.
So the trust will help protect you, let's say, against like Medicaid expenses or healthcare expenses as you get older and have to pay for long-term care and stuff like that.
Exactly. And Medicaid has look-back periods. So creating the trust earlier rather than waiting until something bad happens is really the difference between success and failure. So we talk about success stories. Success stories are people who plan for, create trust, fund their property into the trust, and 7 years later, they need to get care. Everything is protected. Mom or dad gets the covered by Medicaid, and the family's house goes to the family.
We have a couple of questions coming in. Do
Yeah,
you
sure.
want to answer them
Let's
now
go,
or
Rose.
continue?
No,
All right.
are there questions in there?
Yeah, we have a couple.
Okay. Oh, okay.
All right. What if you get an irrevocable trust and end up getting divorced?
Well, the point about it is there's some unwinding. A divorce creates unwinding, right? So it's one of the assets. It's one of the assets that's going to be something to be determined between the two people according to how they settle their divorce. Some people may withdraw from one of the two will probably withdraw from the trust.
And the second question is there a time limit or time limits when selling a house when there's an irrevocable trust in place?
I think I don't think that there's a time limit to sell the house. It depends what you mean. After someone dies, do you have a time to sell the house? The good news about using a trust to control your property is you can also put rules around it, right? So if your family is undecided on what's going to happen when mom and dad pass or whether we're going to keep or sell the house, we can create some rules, especially if there's several siblings, right? Because one may be living in the house. They definitely don't want you to sell the house out from under them, but the other ones want to get the piece of their inheritance. Maybe we make a time frame under which the one who's living there has 2 years, say, to go and find financing and buy everybody else out. Determining all those factors about what they would buy them out at in advance makes it easier, makes it less likely that everybody's going to be jumping all over each other because some are living there, some are not, waiting to get sold, not getting their inheritance. So a trust allows you to put rules around all of that.
You know what? There's a segue with that into the real estate, and the reason there's realtors here also, in this
Yes,
type of meeting.
absolutely.
I mean, this comes up all the time with families. I mean, honestly, death is inevitable. Getting older is inevitable. Debt is inevitable in most cases. And I find that people are so surprised or scrambling, like just at a time when they should be grieving or consoling with their family or participating with their family in maybe, some nice memories. People start groveling with their family and fighting a little bit. And, it's just, everyone's trying to get their share or something like that. And I've just seen it over and over and over again and not knowing what to do. And the whole thing with this is that, especially when there's real estate involved, but probably even when there's not, whatever your assets are. I think it's just a great idea if families understand what happens in the future when you can do it calmly. It's like sometimes when people go into business, or you get married, everything is just like comfortable at the beginning. And then somehow later things can get uncomfortable, and possibly people can relate to their own personal experiences that are listening to this. So it's much better to negotiate something or arrange for something when everything is comfortable, I think, than when things are uncomfortable. And it's for that reason, it's very important to do this the sooner, when you're ready, but not when you're old, when you're, now, it's kind of thing,
Able.
sooner rather than later.
Able. I'm
Yeah,
glad
when
you
you're
say-
able.
They say that contracts should be done when you're friends, and it goes into effect
Right.
when you're not friends. That's having it done in a calm, quiet way, the parents explaining to children what their philosophy is and that kind of stuff is important. You're right. The family conversations are important, but how many families talk about this stuff? Very few.
I know. I mean, just like, I think a personal story I was just going to share. My dad passed away with my sister and I. He left a list, and he always used to tell us about this list. He had an envelope. It was called "In the Event," and my sister and I never wanted to look at that. We'd come over for supper or something, and he'd say like, "Hey, I updated this." Like, no, we don't want to know. But when he did pass away, he left us instructions for everything. And it was actually, it was nice, to tell you the truth. It was a nice experience as far as that piece of what it could have been an unnice experience. And there were nieces and nephews involved also, and grandkids. So, it was just, everything went smoothly, and I was very happy that he did that. And that's why, on a personal level, why I got interested in learning, what Andrew offers as far as, the services and how this all works.
Yeah, it makes it so much more simple. And it works out so much easier when people, have taken the time to put a plan together. It's also important to have documents waiting to be ready, because once the death happens with no documents, now everybody's scrambling, just trying to figure out what to do next. So
Exactly.
parents really help their family by sitting down, having those conversations, talking about what they want on their healthcare proxy. If something happens to them, and they get sick, how they want to be dealt with, or dealing with their property as their power of attorney agent too. Just very important to have those family conversations, which are difficult conversations to have. Sometimes mom and dad think all you're interested in is the money. What do you want to talk to me about my money for? We hear that a lot of times. So it's good to also find people who are going to give you some good education, just like Dean and Evans are always out there giving out really great information on their social media, on in these podcasts that we do from time to time. They're right there. They're right there in the streets, knowing and have so much experience, and that's what you really need to look for: people to talk to about that, and then to listen to what they're saying and take some advice.
Can I add something to what you just said? Basically, what Andrew just said, what Dean just said, is pretty much when you have these conversations, you really take the burden off of you, your family members, whoever's left behind, so they can pick up the pieces. It just makes it easier when you have the conversation. Growing up, we never talked about this. It was never a conversation. It would be considered rude, basically, if you brought this up to your parents, to your grandparents. But like Dean said, pretty much when you do have the conversations, you do have a plan. It does make it a little easier, where you can focus on other things, basically the family members who might not be doing so well during this process. All right, we can take care of them. We have a plan. We know exactly what we're doing, and we can take it from there. We do have a question from Marissa. She wanted to know, can a revocable trust be made into a irrevocable trust, or do you have to start all over?
The truth is, you don't have to start all over. Most of the time we will start all over, because they're very different. They have very different goals. And there's a lot of changes that have to be made to a revocable trust if you're restating it. But it's not impossible to restate a revocable trust to an irrevocable trust.
Okay, well, just curious with that, then how often should you look at updating your trust?
Another great question. So for us in my firm, what we do is we offer a maintenance plan to our clients so that they, on an annual basis, they pay a reasonable fee to have me sort of on retainer to deal with their estate plan. It encourages them to call more often, to come in once a year or once every other year and discuss the changes that are happening in your life. I think that at least every other year or every third year, you should come and look at what's going on and see how everything is worked out in your plan and whether it still matches, whether the laws have changed in certain things, because right this minute, laws are changing left and right. Things are up in the air, and so it's going to be volatile for a while. And also just the things in your life change. You know, you may not like one of your children as much as you liked them before, or one of your children may need more things than the other one has, so you may want to change and alter those kind of plans. You know, nothing stays static in this world. And so your estate plan can. But the funny thing is 19.7, you know what that is? That's the number of years on average between the time that someone completes their plan and then looks at it again. Because you
Oh my
feel
God.
so.
Well, is there a specific life event that would trigger you to look at it without waiting 19.7 years?
Yeah, being involved with your estate planning attorney, knowing that, looking at, some of the emails that you receive once you're a client, or knowing that there is, I mean, you get your car inspected every year. You go to the dentist, hopefully once or twice a year. You do those things, you should look at your estate plan, because that is the plan that you created at a certain point in time, and things change.
Andrew, quick
Question.
question.
Oh, you want to go to the question on here?
I'll get to that in a second. Andrew, quick question. How does somebody look up a professional such as yourself? What should they be looking for?
So I think one thing is how well, for me, how well do they educate, right? How well do they give you information that you need to have to understand what's going on? Because what I find more than anything is the estate planning and elder law world is one that people do not get much information directly from the source. They get a lot of ambient noise. You get things on television, AARP, and all those kind of things. Never really sure how all these fit, especially fit for them. So getting information from the right place, seeing what they're putting out there, and seeing you should come and visit, see them. Come in and book an appointment to see somebody to get the real deal about what's going on. Once you have some kind of feeling. The good news about social media is you can now get a feel for the person who's presenting the information. You get a feel about how they are, who they are, what they are, and what they do. And so you make that choice. It's buying decision is generally an emotional choice, right? It's people think about doing their plans. I can't tell you how long they tell me they have been thinking about it when they finally get into do it. The peace of mind that comes is, the peace of mind that is available it's just unbelievable to watch when you see someone finally do it and they just say, wow. And I can't tell you how much, what the difference is between doing a plan and not doing a plan. And I see the people who don't do plans, it's always more expensive. It's always more difficult. There's always more fighting. All kinds of stuff goes on. By doing a plan, you definitely make it a better outcome, and usually a lot less expensive as well.
Are there any common mistakes that people make when they're
Lots
making
of
a
them.
plan?
Tons of them.
Right.
I mean, people make mistakes. They go on to do-it-yourself websites.
Right. That's
And
what
not
I'm
that
asking.
do-it-yourself things are bad. I am not knocking the fact that, for very basic, simple things, going on a do-it-yourself website really can't cause much trouble. But how about this? I have a gentleman comes to me, his partner passed away. They had a $5 million co-op in Manhattan, and he did a do-it-yourself will. And he did it wrong. Now the guy had died. They've been partners for 40 years. He wanted his partner to get this co-op, and the will was no good. What they don't know, if the will's no good, now you go through intestacy. These were two people who had not gotten married, lived together for 40 years, and when the expectation was that this condo was going to the survivor, the surviving partner. It ended up going to the second cousin of the guy who died, the second cousin who he hated, didn't like the second cousin. The point is, when you leave it up to, so here's the point. There is an estate plan out there. The estate plan that you have, if you do nothing, is the New York State rules regarding all of this stuff. If you think that that's going to work out just right, great for you, then maybe it's okay. It's rare that it works out, but maybe it's okay. So that kind of situation is a mistake. Not doing things properly, not getting a professional involved. Most of the cases that I find in court are those kind of things.
And you had mentioned how the rules and the laws are always changing. So how do you leave something open-ended today based on where a rule is going to be in New York State in
Absolutely.
2030? Who the heck knows? Wow.
Well, they say the failure to plan is a plan to fail.
All right,
Right,
we have a
for
couple questions, but I was gonna wait till we had some more. So everybody who has more questions, please put them in the Q&A. First,
I would ask you guys a question.
go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, so how do you know when is the right time to be buying versus renting?
That's an individual thing, I would say. It really depends on where you are in your life at that point, and then financially, if it makes financial sense for you to purchase, if you really want to own something at that moment. If you're looking to invest, obviously you sit down just like you would sit down with you, have a conversation with your professional, and we ask you a lot of questions. I mean, a lot of thorough questions to make sure that we understand what your goals are, and then we show you basically what is possible, and we give you your choices, and then you pick basically what works best for you and your family, and we'll guide you through the process. Then you want to add anything?
Yeah, and not just because I'm a realtor, but I just think it's always better to buy than to rent. The only time renting would come into the equation is if you have a known temporary situation. If you're unsure, you're out of this house for whatever reason, your parents are moving, you live with your parents, whatever it might be, and you're not sure if you're, getting a job in Florida or another state next year, or you're not, or you're graduating and you might go to work somewhere else. But if other than being unsure of where you might be in a year or two, I don't see any advantage to renting versus owning. And you could find anything to own, a condo, a co-op, or smaller home, or maybe a little further out east on Long Island to get something a little lower price to match the same budget that you would spend on rent. So I don't see it being a monthly money difference. Obviously, you have to have some savings to start. And there's also a lot of loan programs and grants to help you with the down payment. And there's also ways to structure the transaction to keep the out-of-pocket expense probably not much worse than first, last, and security deposit kind of thing. So
That's great to know. As a first-time home buyer, is it a good time to buy now in this interest rate market and the houses are so expensive as people complain?
You can always
you know what
buy,
is you
can
you
always
can't
buy
time the
something now.
market.
You can always buy something now and then refinance later. That's
I was
what
just
I
gonna
do.
say, you can't time the market. Historically, home prices have gone up. Even, like the stock market, like anything else, the trend is always up. If you want to look back 5 years, not 5 months. And, between a year ago, homes were, 5% more in Nassau County. So say they were 40,000 or 5% less a year ago. That $40,000 could have been your equity if you bought it a year ago. Nothing's changed dramatically. It's just ultimately values go up. So ultimately you're building equity. And for that reason, if you're ready, you're ready. It's hard to time the market though. You just time yourself.
Can I ask Dean a question? What do you mean by ready? Because we have definitions basically for buyers. When they say they're ready, what exactly does that mean?
Ready, it doesn't have to be any type of life event. It's just if you're gonna be in an area, let's say you're from Queens, New York, and you're gonna be living and working in Queens for the foreseeable future. To me, that makes, and you're healthy and you're working, that makes you ready. If you can live on your own, you're ready. That's most of it. I don't know if it's more of an emotional thing in a sense, or
That's what I was looking for. Emotional is basically there is some emotion involved in this. So it's not just you're ready financially, but you have to be 100%. Are you really 100% into this to pull the trigger when you see the right home that fits all your needs?
Can you tell us a success story of someone who was dead set on renting, that you were able to show and convince them, and the opportunity turned out so much better to buy?
You're asking me or Dean?
I'm asking
No,
either one of
he's
you.
asking Evans.
All right. So with that one, we've had a few of them basically where we sat down, went through, we did a consultation. Whether you're a buyer, a seller, or renter, whatever your situation is, we always do a consultation. Like I said before, we're going to ask you thorough questions. I don't know if you can see my sheets over here. I have sheets that I ask a lot of questions, which I can't reach them right now, but they pretty much very thorough. You're not going to see them on the screen. Very thorough. We ask you a lot of questions: what your needs are, what your wants are, what will you live without, what you 100% need and want, and then we had that consultation, and basically Dean did the math, showed them the math, and I showed them the areas for the same price. You can live here. You build your own equity as opposed to doing that. Sometimes basically the time is not right for them at that moment, but they're building their equity, they're building their money so they can actually own something. We have quite a few people that they had to start over again, whatever the situation is, whether they're going through a divorce or whether they, something happened with family members, but they have started their lives over and they have bought their homes, and now they're on their second home or third home or whatever the case may be.
All right, so I have a gentleman that came into our office about 2 weeks ago, referred from someone else who had sold a home with us. He's renting in Whitestone area. He's been renting since 2020. And that person that he's renting from in the house is selling their house. So he came in to talk to me, and it was actually, Dean, I don't know if I want to rent or I want to buy a property. He's in his late 50s. He has a union job. He's eligible for retirement coming up in about 2 years. Why is he considering renting versus buying? Because he had 100 grand, the number he gave me, he gave to his parents who live out of state to help them buy a house or something to do with their housing. So he doesn't have the cash right now, and he doesn't know if when he retires from his union job or from that job, if he wants to stay in New York or he wants to move by where his parents are. He needs to move into something right now. So financially, the wallet's a little thin, but also for himself, he doesn't know if he's going to be here long term or not. So we're looking at rentals in Whitestone, right? An alternate rental, in Whitestone, and in his case, it makes more sense to rent right now, because he's not sure what he wants to do, and the money part. But that's all.
I guess every case is different. Everybody has a different scenario. Everybody has different needs, and there's a solution for everyone, though.
Yeah, I mean, he came in and he said, "I don't know if I want to rent or own," and my mind is thinking, we'll share ways that you can actually own a home, because I believe in that. And then just, I ask questions, you listen to his circumstances, and it's like, maybe not. Maybe makes more sense for
Right.
you. So we just go down that path. That's all.
And we have similar things in our practice, right? Someone comes in and says, "I need a will." They're in their late 60s, early 70s. They have a real property. They are concerned about, they have some conditions and that they may need some care. And, a will is definitely not going to help that person. Not to the extent that planning to make sure that, that house would be safe and would be a non-countable resource, depending upon how long it is before he does the plan. Or for instance, the 73-year-old woman I saw today who came in and she thought she wanted a will. She didn't even understand that she could have the amount of assets she has and still qualify to get Medicaid if they do some planning. So, people don't know, and we have to find the right solution for them. But there are the people who walk in saying, I definitely want an irrevocable trust. They don't have any property to put in there, and there's no point for them to create a trust. So it really is, people have some idea about what they think they want. We have to offer them the best solution for what they actually need.
Good stuff.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Andrew, you're saying that people need to have a consultation with people.
I definitely think so. I think that's always important.
So this is when I do the segue. If you guys can see, depending on what device you're using to view this, we each have QR codes. So if you'd like to book an appointment or a consultation, scan each one of our QR codes and book an appointment. It doesn't take that long, and you can do a Q&A like we're doing right now on Zoom, or we can talk on the phone first and meet face to face, whatever you're comfortable with. And we've heard it all. We're here to answer your questions. Speaking of which, we have a couple that I didn't get through, so I'm gonna try and get through these. All right, so this one's from David. Can you explain how important is it the spend down process is, and what's the reason what's a reasonable amount to be left in the person's account before nursing homes try to empty out your account or accounts plural?
Well, I guess the question really is about Medicaid and the idea of having to spend down some of your assets. So what the real answer is that everybody's situation is different. It depends what you own. It depends what your condition is. It depends who else is in the family. It depends whether you're married or not. For us, what we always ask, please, you can contact us and we can give you some information about how it would work for you. We have a Medicaid assessment form that could tell us and tell you what it is that we can do, how much we can protect immediately, and what it would look like throughout the look back period for Medicaid, so that you can make the right decision about this. You'd be really surprised that we get people Medicaid who have a lot of money, but having done the planning properly, that's all that really counts, and then we can protect their assets. And they don't, what basically it is, they have to spend down as least as they're legally required to. That's what we help. We help it make it so that you spend down at least as you have to.
All right, now next question. What if you don't have family or friends that you trust to be a trustee?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's a great question. Many people come to me and say, I don't have anybody who can help me. I don't have anybody to be a power of attorney or a healthcare proxy or a trustee. So there's several solutions. One of them is that we offer ourselves to be that. We're a paid fiduciary, we are insured, and we help our clients that way. And if you don't want us to do it, there are paid fiduciaries. There are people out in the world. Their business is to help people, especially older adults, deal with the situation of not having anybody around to help. They also act to help you and your family members. Dealing a lot of times we deal with the children of older adults. So you have the sandwich generation where your parents need help. They're getting older. You can't do everything for them. You have these younger kids that you're taking care of. So there are people out there who offer themselves. They get paid only when they do things, like they sign up. You can name them your power of attorney agent, name them your healthcare proxy, or name them your trustee. And only when they do the things they need to do, and in that capacity, do you have to pay them. So there definitely are alternatives when you don't have necessarily people that you trust. Hiring professionals who are insured and in some cases bonded to deal with the situation for you is a good outcome.
We have another question that just came in. My mom is 60. She wants to put her house in our names so that she can qualify for Medicaid
Okay,
down the line. And is it too late for her to put the house in an irrevocable trust? And the second part of that question is it a good idea for her to transfer the deed to the family?
Well, first of all, 60 is young in my world. I have a lot of clients over 100, and I have a lot of more clients who are in their 90s and 80s. So it's not, and that's number one. Number two, it's never too late to do planning, because no matter what, we can protect a significant amount of your assets because of how the laws work and how we know how to work with the laws. So the best thing is to, come to one of my workshops, because I give 2 workshops a month at least on Zoom at no cost. Look for me in Facebook and Instagram, Estate Planning and Elder Law Group, or set up and come in and have a consultation with us. We'll explain to you how the situation would work for you and your family. No matter what, we can protect significant amounts of your assets. The earlier you start, the better chance you have of protecting 100% of them. That's the difference. We can protect at least 50% no matter what, or 100% if you start early. And people need this help because long-term care is unusually and unfairly expensive. You're talking about somewhere between $15,000 and $17,000 per month for a nursing home bed In memory care, it's more like $21,000 to $25,000 per month. And even at home, it's somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 per month to have someone come into your house to take care of you. If you want to find out more information, scan us, come in to see us, look for our workshops that we do every month, and look for our stuff on Instagram and Facebook. We give out a lot of information.
All right, so while you're alive, though, also, can a trust protect your assets from creditors, stuff like that? Is it like a separate entity?
Absolutely. That's the purpose of it. You know, a lot of people think trusts are only for rich people. A lot of people think that trusts are only for people trying to hide something. A lot of people think that how could that possibly be that you can put your things in a trust and then protect against, you know, say a bad car accident you have. In New York, you can protect against things happening in the future. You cannot protect things that happened in the past. So you can't take your money and property and put it into a trust when you owe credit cards and you owe a mortgage, right? It's not, they're not going to be, those are creditors you can't protect against. But if you have protected your house and the day after that, you unfortunately wipe out a pedestrian crossing the street, that house is protected because you protected it before the accident ever happened. If before Medicaid, you need Medicaid, you've protected it, you're going to get the full protection because you protected it before you needed Medicaid far enough in advance. The whole point.
Then what's that look back? The 5-year look back I always hear about. What is that?
What that
In
means,
relation to what you just said.
a
Yeah.
great question. How that so when we protect against any creditors in the future, we're protecting it immediately. Medicaid has the ability to look back 5 years from the time that you apply and are otherwise eligible to see what you gave away if to go into a nursing home. And soon to be 2.5 years will be the look back period for community Medicaid, where they help take care of you in your own home. The fact is, if you start earlier and go through the look back period, those assets that you've put in your trust that have been there for more than that 5 years or 2.5 years are no longer countable resources. They cannot go after those. So the look back period and this asset protection is how it works hand in hand and works best by starting as early as possible.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to be mindful of the time. We're at 7:41. Last batch of questions, and I'm inside the chat. I put our website, so you guys click on that. You can save them on your computers. And I'm also going to send you guys a link. Also, if you would like to book an appointment to have further conversations, obviously you don't want to talk in front of everybody else, but you want to have a one-on-one, we can do that. You have options. Again, scan the QR codes on our individual screens, or go to the chat, which is open right now, which has the links. I'm going to send them out again one more time.
I don't have any more questions for
Tiffany,
Andrew. Who else has a question?
well, there is a question. Tiffany just wanted to let us know there is a survey that'll be sent out as well. And the next question. All right, the question is, can you discuss about step-up basis? We only have about 3 minutes. So to the person that asked that question, if you really want to get that answer, Andrew basically is more than happy to answer that question for you.
I can do it in one.
You can do it in one?
Right.
Go for it.
Absolutely. So you buy a piece of property for $100,000 and 20 years later, it's worth $1 million. So your basis is $100,000. And when your purchase price, what you're selling it for is $1 million, you'll have $900,000 in profit. That is considered to be a capital gain because it's held for more than a year. And now you have appreciated property. If you go sell the house, if you don't have an exemption, you're going to pay tax on $900,000. Basically 25 to 35% of that. So you're looking at tax of $200,000 to $300,000+. If you don't sell your house while you're alive and pass it on to your kids, when they receive it after you die, they're going to take it at your date of death value. So they receive the house at the $1 million value. If they sell the house for $1 million, there is no tax because there's no taxable gain. It stepped up the basis from the 100,000 to the date of death value, which was 1 million. So we avoided having to pay the tax, which is
That's
one
through a trust?
reason. I'm sorry.
That's through a trust?
That's in through a trust. That's leaving property to your family after you die. So a trust helps it because the trust protects it while it's getting there. But the point is, it's not just because of the trust. I would love to tell you it's just because of the trust, but that's not true. But the point is this, it's much better. The other reasons why you don't want to give your family home to your kids while you're alive is, what happens if something happens in their lives that go wrong? What happens if one of your kids runs over somebody in the street? What happens if they get sued by their business partner? Your house is owned partially by them. What if they get divorced? What if they die and leave the house because they have no will? Leave it to your daughter-in-law. Now you're living in your daughter-in-law's or your daughter-in-law and grandchildren's house. The point is, it's really better to never pass your house to your children when you're alive and give it to them after you die. Tax-wise, it's better, and also it's better for liability effects.
All right, we literally have 1 minute left, so Tiffany, if you can come on in. Basically, we couldn't do this without Tiffany's help.
Yes.
I know she's kind of shy right now. So everybody, if we can give everybody a round of applause.
Charlotte.
Thanks.
Yay.
Spending the
That's a
time
great
with us.
job, Tiffany. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure and honor working with you all, and thank you so much. Now I'm gonna go back into the darkness and hide, okay? Thanks.
All right. So again, folks, thank you so much for spending your time with us. In the chat is our contact information. I put the websites also in there.
Did you tell them
QR
how to
codes.
save the chat too?
Everybody's getting an email with all our contact information also.
And
Again,
don't forget about the survey.
yes, please sign the survey before you leave. That's it for us. I'm Evan Saint-Gerard, your real estate agent here in Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Long Island. You have any needs, basically selling a home, buying a home, or investing in another state, that's what I do. My contact information, 917-975-5985. Dean.
Dean Graver, real estate agent in New York too, 516-527-9549. It's my pleasure to be here tonight.
And thank you guys.
And scan me, my QR code. They could see it. It's right by my right ear. It's pointing to.
Andrew.
And I am Andrew Jaloza from the Estate Planning and Elder Law
Left ear.
Group. Full service estate planning and elder law, from everything from starting out young couples dealing with the first plans to high net worth planning, as well as doing probate, estate planning, and trust administration, Medicaid planning, basically the whole thing, elder law. We do it all, and we do it all in the city of New York, 4 boroughs of the city of New York. We don't much go to Staten Island, but we do know good people in Staten Island. And we do, Western Nassau, we do Lower Westchester, and other places in the state of New York, because we can do it remotely. I also have contacts with most states. So if you're planning on moving from here, we make sure that whatever you have is going to be good wherever you're going. And for the most part, it is anyway, because that's how this country works. We're all one country, that the documents are good for everybody. Right? Right.
Yeah.
All right. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you guys so much for spending your time with us. I know there's a lot of questions out there. You're looking for answers. That's what we're here for. We're here to answer your questions. So do not be afraid. The next step is up to you. Call us, pick up that phone. Let's start the conversation, and let's see what your next step is. I'm Evan Saint-Gerard. I just want to say good night to everybody, and everybody, good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.